meeting to order. First item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the 19th.
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of March 19, 2025.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Abstain? Mike, you ready to
Sure,
go?
yeah.
Financial report?
So I don't have too much to report this month. Revenues close to budget, expenses are a little under budget due to timing. In March 25, where we made payments on 7 outstanding bonds, which contributed to a slight decrease in cash. But the cash on hand of $3.9 million remains strong and sufficient to service the existing debt and operations. But if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take a stab at those.
Says 3.9.
Yep. Yep.
Where does the district keep its cash?
Androscoggin savings.
Androscoggin.
Yeah.
Have we ever shopped for that?
We have a little bit, and it's interesting, recently we've been getting some inquiries from different banks, because I went to a trade show in February and ran into a couple of different banks, so they've been coming by, dropping their cards, and last year, we basically get free checking and savings, and we don't pay for anything. They started saying, well, we're going to like to start charging for some of these things, and our customer service tech came from the banking industry, and he said a few keywords, and we'll just keep it all free. So they left it, but yeah, we're getting treated pretty well, but I think it's time that we just kick the tires and look around a little bit.
Right. Yeah, the key's not the service charges, it's the interest rate.
Right, yes, right.
Okay. Any other questions? I guess we're on to the public comment. I see nobody here from the public. So we'll open it, close the public hearing.
Public just went out.
What was it? Steve?
Yeah, Steve Field, yeah.
Yeah. Steve, we just opened public comment.
Go late.
I know, I'm sorry, I skipped away. Are you serious, Dennis?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, well, I'll turn it right back on you.
I always am.
By reporting that Dennis and I attended the meeting of the Watershed Commission last week, at which time the Water Quality Manager, Danielle Olson, announced the start of the public notification period for the inspections of the septic systems around the lake. And they're beginning with Area 1, which is the area closest to the intake system and includes East Auburn and Jalen Trailer Park most notably. And the first notification meeting will be at the Auburn Library on May 12th. And all things seem to be going well. The second person that assists Danielle, whose name is Phoebe, last name I can't remember.
Hawkins.
Thank you. Is going to be the chief outreach person for that program. And there's also a third person who's been engaged on a grant basis to do work on what's called Shore Core, which is a kind of a grant program to do individual project work around the lake, hands-on small system work around the lake. That's to be developed a little bit later. End of public comment.
Thanks. Close public comment. Matt, you want to roll into the activity report?
Yeah, absolutely. So activity report, I'm just going to kind of go down through. If there's anything specific people would like to discuss, please let me know. As far as mains, everything's pretty normal there that time of year where we're not doing a lot of main work unless it's an emergency. We did do some project readiness. We did get our final elevations for Merrill Road project over to the city so that they could review and make adjustments to their plan to try to accommodate or reduce as much influx conflicts, not inflicts, conflicts that we experienced with the initial plan that they had. Hydrants, normal there, heavy for us that time of year where we're out maintaining our hydrants, dipping them, make sure they're not freezing.
Well, hydrants,
Yep.
were they all hit and run, or do you know, or?
Oh, you're talking about the ones that were hit?
Hydrants were
Yes,
hit?
so there were 3 of them that were struck.
That's
One
right,
of them
3
was
of them.
frozen. Yeah. I believe on 2 of the 3, we either got a police report or it was due to the snow plow that did hit the hydrant. And then with that one particular hydrant, we did set it back because it was very close to the roadway. So hopefully we don't have that experience in the future with that one hydrant. Any other questions with the hydrant?
I'm good.
Yep. We did have 2 new services, out doing a lot of box and rod work that typically coincides with springtime coming, the thaw, the frost coming out of the ground, as well as our billing cycles when we have to go off and do shut-offs. Meters look pretty consistent, a little bit lighter, due to no construction projects going on that time of year. Station checks, crew's doing a great job keeping up with the station checks. We did get that new check valve for the inlet of hardscrabble was installed. We are in the process of disinfecting and putting that storage tank back online. That should be back online next week. Did not receive any water quality calls. As far as laboratory parameters around the lake, everything looks fine there. And weather, fairly consistent with this time of year. Dig safes, you can see those are starting to ramp up. The asphalt plants are open now, so there's a lot of paving going on. Probably see a lot of people doing driveways at this point. Spencer Pavement they do have our list for trenches that we had over the winter time. So they are going to be systematically going through and making permanent repairs to those trenches for us. Any other questions with the activity report?
On the meters,
Yeah.
I noticed that delinquencies are quite a bit more this year than last year. Are we seeing a problem with that?
Delinquencies are more this year?
Yeah, you know,
Where are you
like
seeing?
turn-offs, well, turn-offs, we turned off 21 this year, 10 last year.
Or this month?
Yeah,
Yeah. There's kind of ebbs and flows with that. Usually between 10 to 20 is where we, or
So it's
since
not-
my time, it's fairly consistent. It's within that 10 to 20 range when we see the shut-offs.
There's a period of time we can't shut off the meter, correct?
There's a notification process that we have to go through to shut off a meter.
Well, I thought you couldn't shut it off for an occupied building during the winter months or
That-
so.
Oh, we can.
Yeah.
That's all electricity.
that's electricity, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we have rules as far as a notification process with the PUC
Thank you.
for shuts. Any other questions? All right, I do have kind of some show and tell material here that I'll pass around. What this is a Mr. Manhole. With the volume of manholes as well as gate valves that we have to lower and raise with the DOT projects this year, we wanted to look at 2 things, efficiency and look at saving the manual labor on our staff. We did originally, if you remember, put this out for an RFP. However, we did not experience any response from any contractor that was looking to do this work. I think that kind of just speaks to the nature of this work. Additionally, we were a bid alt on the DOT. However, the price that we received to do this work was outside of our budget. So we did some exploring. We found this unit. This is a Mr. Manhole. This one does manholes, as you can see. However, it has attachment, which is these blue arms here. They attach that Mr. Manhole. You take off these orange arms and you put on the blue arms. And then you can adjust down to do water valves. We had a gentleman, I can pass this around if anybody wants to look at that. We did have a gentleman come up from Manhole Menders in New Hampshire, who was a representative for Mr. Manhole. He worked with our field crews today. Mike and I popped out there for one manhole. It took them less than 10 minutes for them to cut out one manhole. And they were able to, with the training, and being out there on Center Street, a lot of moving parts, and again, first time using this, they were able to pull 6 manholes. Heard staff talking that they think that they'll potentially get 15 manholes in a day, which is 3 times the volume that we did in the past doing it the manual way. So efficiency and saving manual labor. Pretty excited for that. We have not tried the water valve yet. That will be tomorrow. So next month I'll have a report on that, see how that goes. But the crews seem to be excited for this. Typically after a day of adjusting manholes, they're usually tired, not necessarily in a great mood when they come back to the shop. Today, people are smiling, they seem pretty happy. So we're excited for that. We will be using that for the DOT projects. We had a construction meeting last week for the DOT projects. Northeast is the contractor on that. They are starting with the north section of Route 4, so Vets Bridge to Oak Hill. And then they will relocate down here to the Minot Ave section. So our crews were out there working in unison, adjusting our structures. City projects, those have been awarded. Been in contact with the project managers for Gendron, who was awarded the majority of the projects that were out to bid this year. We're getting them our field maps, and we're getting them GPS coordinates for those. That way, there's no confusion as far as where things are and what condition they were in. Merrill Road, they are doing a full reconstruction on that. However, they're only coming from Minot Ave to where the industrial way starts. And then from the industrial way to Hotel Road will be postponed to 2026. They were not able to get the box culvert that they needed within the time frame for their permit for the stream crossing there. We are exploring our options with that. If they're going to be in there doing that work in 2026, we're going to see what it looks like for them instead of having them be in there, us come in and them come back in. What would a price for this look like for you to do the offsets for the sewer and the water that run through there? That's all I have for projects updates. Anybody have questions?
The Mr. Manhole,
Yeah.
is there any other local municipalities that are using that today?
So that's a good question, Tim. When we first looked at the volume of these projects ahead of us, first thing we want to do was see what we'd get for a bid for the contractor to do it. When we didn't get a good bid, we then went with the RFP, and then we didn't get any response with that. So that we knew Public Works had a Mr. Manhole, however, theirs is an off-brand. And we did not know it was an off-brand until we set up a joint training with them. So they could train us, we could learn how to use it, go through all the safety practices with utilizing their piece of equipment. There were a couple things we didn't like with Public Works. Theirs is almost like a hole saw, and there's nothing in the center of the Mr. Manhole. I'm talking about sewer a lot here, sorry gentlemen, but this is how we led to going to this, and this is when we discovered that they had a Mr. Water valve which would serve the water district. A lot of material would fall into the collection system, so we didn't like that, as well as they explained to us when you get into, that would only cut so deep into the pavement, once you go beyond about 8 inches, it really starts struggling. I think that's because of the depth of the pavement as well as the hydraulic system they have on their equipment. So yes, other people do have them. I'm not sure if they have these models. The city of Lewiston has the same model that Public Works does in Auburn.
All right. So the second question I have is, do you have any work-related injuries to doing this manually today that this could avoid those injuries?
Mike maybe could speak to that. In my time here, we haven't had an injury related to this, but I'll tell you, using a jackhammer, the method
Oh,
that
it's-
has been used, it takes a toll on you.
Yeah.
And after you do your first one, you know, your efficiency goes down.
So it's by jackhammer today?
Yeah.
That says a lot right there.
It's jackhammer, and then they would use a mini excavator to dig out the chunks up top, and sometimes doing it that method, your hole winds up bigger than what you intended to be, just because of the nature of the way you're doing the work. So the nice thing about this is cookie cutter, cuts a nice even hole, it's clean cut, there's no jackhammering, there's no, you know, when it pulls the core out, it comes out as one piece, there's no, like, pick up all the little pieces of hot top, and it's pretty slick.
Yeah.
We did have one injury like 5 years ago. Somebody resulted in they wound up having surgery where they were using the jackhammer and essentially pulled something, tore something. They had to get that. So
Needed carpal tunnels and...
yeah,
surgery.
it was something like in that realm.
Yeah.
But it's it's not a common thing. We do a lot of practices to hopefully everything we do is safe. But it is rigorous work. Running a jackhammer is not fun.
So out of curiosity, just a generalized budget for this type of equipment?
I already did receive a quote on that, because I was looking at options of what is it to rent weekly, monthly, what is it to, they have rent-to-own options as well as just outright purchase. With everything that we rented right now, it's approximately just south of 13,000 for a month. However, $3,000 of that is deposits, so you'd get $3,000 back at the end of the month, so long as the equipment it hasn't been abused or damaged. Ownership was roughly around $60,000 for the Mr. Manhole, the water valve cutter, and the water valve blaster. So when you core out a water valve, you still got to get that insert out of it. And that can be manually intensive. So with this blaster, it just breaks it apart, and then you just pull it right out.
Last question, I promise. Do we have the equipment that this could attach to?
So we did look at adapting to what we have for equipment now. However, there's going to be trade-offs with that. Do we want to monopolize a piece of equipment now, and now we don't have it to do stuff up at the yard? Also, looking at, these were specifically designed for skid steers while they make adapters for other pieces of equipment. Trade-offs are your visibility isn't as good when you say you get into a backhoe or a front loader, because there is a pilot hole that you have to have the insert go down into.
Got it. Thank you.
So the rental that is the attachment and the skid steer?
So, no, two separate. So we rented the skid steer on our own. The Mr. Manhole and the Mr. Water Valve came.
10,000.
Yeah, was 10,000. Yeah.
So last night at the sewer meeting, there was a discussion about, do you want to rent one of these things, or do you want to own one of these things? And there was some real fast back of the envelope math that was done that came up with, it makes sense, it's a no-brainer to just buy it outright and go ahead, but Mike reported that we want to try it out, so we tried one of them out today and try the other one out tomorrow.
And financially, it was gonna work out, right? You were talking
Well,
about,
we'll know by next month. I mean, we'll have a month under our belt. We'll know how efficiently we did the work. And if we get paid for it and the money we allocated to do the gates and manholes this year, we'll come back to you with this next month, what we think. And if the big thing is, is it really as efficient as everything says it is? If we go out and get 15 tomorrow, I know what I'm gonna be thinking. They used to average 3 to 4 a day. If they get 15 in a day, that's incredible.
Well, if they get a dozen.
Even if they get 10, it's huge.
Yeah.
So,
and it's gonna save wear and tear on the body too.
Oh, yeah.
The jackhammer and all that too, that's another saving.
That's huge.
And it's a cleaner, there's a lot of benefits. So cleaner cut hole is better.
Yeah,
It makes for a happier crew.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And crews that can show up the next day and they're not all beat up. And to answer your question, is there injuries? It's the acute nature of it is that day you get tired throughout the day and the week that you're doing it, right? But it's more of a chronic thing too, where it breaks you down year after year, season after season. using this equipment. The other thing is, yeah, Mike and I kind of saw this as a test drive of the equipment, if you will, to see if it suits our needs, and if it's as efficient as we think it could be. Also, if we do want to move forward with purchasing, next month we could potentially talk about that. I do know, with talk with a salesman, he said that he would give us a first month rental at no cost if we do go forward with purchasing. So that 12 or 13 grand, or 10 grand, if you will, with a $3,000 deposit would be at no cost.
And you probably would split the cost between sewage and water.
Yep.
It's a no-brainer.
But yeah, essentially you can't use one without the other.
Yeah.
And if we're spending less time on the highway doing these jobs, it's also gonna save on traffic control expenses.
Well, that too, Bob, and we can get back to our other maintenance as well. You know, take care of our distribution system, take care of our pump stations, and get back on projects like Lauren Ave or Spring Street.
I wonder if when you guys go to do water valves, if you're gonna be using that Vector truck too.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
I don't know, I'm not.
well, I mean, that was the worry when, you know, Public Works was great about letting us try theirs, but
Yeah.
the first one we went to, as they're coring it, the hot top's all going down into the sewer manhole, and, you know, that, it works with storm drain because every catch basin has a sump in it, sewer manholes don't.
Right.
So then you had to roll the Vector truck out there to vacuum out hot top and the rocks that got into the manhole, and it's like, this isn't gonna be efficient. Because now I gotta have skid steer, gotta have a loader for backfilling, and I gotta have a vacuum truck to now clean out the manholes.
Yeah.
But they did the ones today, they never rolled the Vector truck out, they didn't need it to do any of these
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
It's like, okay, this is
Yeah.
looking good, but again, I don't wanna get too excited,
yeah.
but next month we'll have some real answers and options for you.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, so Eric, there's a speed plate that goes down in.
Yeah, I guess I saw it.
You saw it yesterday?
Yeah,
So with the
Well, no,
water
I saw
one, it actually has a cone that
Okay.
goes in,
Oh, I
and
see.
nothing can actually get
Okay.
into the box.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's cool.
All right. Any other questions?
That was it today.
I'm really upset you didn't call me. I'm all and I really want to operate it too.
All right. New business?
Yes, okay, new business. I wanted to go over, every year we get a really nice report from USDA. The district and the city of Lewiston have been using U.S. Department of Agriculture since 2005. So every year they give us an annual report on the gull management for Lake Auburn. I think it's important to do a little refresher on this. So, you know, we have our filtration waiver that allows us to provide water from Lake Auburn without filtering. In 2003, we actually had a violation of the waiver, which, per the nature of it, we could have lost the waiver. The violation was for an exceedance of E. coli fecal coliform. At the time, the district and the city of Lewiston utilized our own staff to harass gulls on Lake Auburn. So we had a little Zodiac boat. We've got a shotgun and a locker upstairs. The guys would go out with these non-lethal rounds, and they would take turns between our crew and the Lewiston crew zipping around the lake shooting, you know, at the gulls, and they'd fly off. But unfortunately, our non-lethal methods resulted in the birds would just return the minute we docked the boat. They'd come back, they'd land, they'd sleep on the lake for the night, and the E. coli and fecal coliform counts, you know, exceeded our limits. So we were allowed to keep our waiver from filtration because we formulated this plan with USDA to have basically a planned, I don't want to say assault on seagulls, but you know, harassment program. So we worked with them, we developed this, and we implemented it in 2005. And if you look at the numbers on page 5, the program effectiveness, I always like to direct trustees and anyone who asks to this page. You can look back and you can see in 2004 where we exceeded the limit of 20 colonies per 100 milliliters. We exceeded it, so we had our violation. In 2005, we started up a program with USDA, and then you can see every year subsequent to that, we've been well below the threshold and the limit. It's been very, very effective. I understand that this is a very expensive program, but it is very worthwhile, and we do benefit greatly from it. A couple of things, you know, some years it's like, how come it was less money this year? How come it was more money this year? If you go to page 9, you can see the reports from 2006 to 2024, average numbers of gulls observed. But one thing you can see is the duration of this. And you can see that this program essentially goes from April to January. Well, if you take a year where it's a typical Maine winter and say the lake freezes over in December, and then the ice coverage does not come off until April or May, you have less months throughout the year where you have to harass seagulls, therefore your program costs you less money. We don't just pay a straight flat rate to USDA, we pay based off of our usage of it. So last year was a very poor ice coverage year. The ice out on the lake was like March 13th, ice on. It froze in January, then it thawed, and then it refroze in February, and then it was off in mid-March. So last year was a more expensive year than average. This winter has been really good. Ice off the lake was declared just this week on Monday. So we're going into 2025 on a good foot. We did not have to harass seagulls in March and for most of April. The program is going. They'll be out there throughout the summer, into the fall, and until the lake freezes. But again, I just like to show you this report every year. We do get this. This is something that our watershed manager, she manages this program with USDA. She's in constant contact with them, making sure that we're effective and that we're meeting the objectives. So it's been very beneficial. So anyway, I usually just like to give that report. If there's any questions on it, I'd be happy to answer them.
So just to put it in context a little bit, some of you might be asking the fecal colonies, you know, in the raw water, what does that matter? You know, why are we doing this? Well, that directly correlates with our filtration waiver. If we have too many excursions with that, now we're having a discussion of our filtration waivers potentially being pulled, and we're having a much more expensive discussion about filtration.
Yeah, we can't have any excursions from it.
Yeah.
You can't, you know, any violation of that will result in loss of the waiver. So we did experience one, and they gave us kind of a, all right, well, what are you going to do about this? We formulated this plan, presented this contract, they accepted that, and said we'll monitor it. Well, it's now been very successful for a couple of decades now. So it's been very good.
Where do you, like, I drive by or live near the lake or on the lake, close enough to the lake. So there's times like November, you definitely see like 500 to 1,000 birds, you know, nesting for the night. Does the district want to call on that, or who should that be directed at?
So the watershed manager is in direct contact with USDA. If I get a call, I contact her. She contacts them to see where they're at, when they're out there. Yeah, I think you have emailed me before in the past, and I pass that directly on. You know, they don't try to go Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 3:30. They can't go every night too. They can't be there every night from 4:30 p.m. till sunset. So they try to stagger it throughout the week. They go on weekends, they go mornings, they go evenings, they go midday. They try to hit all cycles so the birds know it's not safe there any time of the day. And try to keep them over on the Androscoggin Flyway where they really kind of belong. And don't look at Lake Auburn as a roosting site. But yeah, no, let us know.
Michael, when we had active landfills, was it a horde problem?
I can't speak to what it used to be like because I wasn't here, back before this program. From what I understand, we have staff that still work here that they used to be on the little Zodiac out there doing it, and they said it was absolutely, there was hundreds and hundreds of gulls on the lake at all time, and all they would do is chase them from one end of the lake to the other. They'd flush them off, they'd fly over land over there, and then they just, when they would be sent up there it was a 6-hour shift. It was your thing to do today. You got suited up, you put a full suit on, you put a life, and you go out there with another person on the Zodiac, one drives and one fires until you don't have any more bangers left, and all they did was chase them from one end of the lake to the other, and as soon as they dock, they're all landing and they're back in the lake.
But it was way more fun than digging out manholes.
It was probably more fun than doing jackhammer and manholes.
I know people that chase birds for fun doing that.
Yeah, that might happen too. But yeah.
I wonder what the attraction is to Lake Auburn with seagulls versus just staying on the ocean front.
You know, we've had Ben Nugent, he's the USDA regional coordinator, and he's been on this program since its inception. We've had him come in and give presentations to this board, and I can recall him explaining what the attraction is. And it's, you know, birds would much rather roost on a nice, calm lake. They don't have to work to stay in position. If they roost on the Androscoggin River, as you can imagine, the river is slowly moving. They have to waddle their feet to keep in a certain position. You know, they generally like to, being on a lake is a much more happy place to spend the night than on, say, a river. And, you know, Lake Auburn is located within the downtown area of Auburn and really not that far as a crow flies to Lewiston. And it's kind of like a crop field. There's food here. And, you know, that's just another thing that, you know, whether you call that open landfills or, you know, we've even, you know, it's not our place, but when we do see like dumpster lids getting left open around town, we make calls. And we make sure that that type of stuff gets closed up and kept up because it's just one more thing keep it apparent, you know? But.
Interesting.
Mike, can you operate your statement list?
Yeah.
The very last item, the Lake Auburn watershed, go management, second one up. Ice is just off the lake this week, but we sent them $15,830. Do you know what that would be based on? Would that be based on 2024?
It actually is. Mike and I looked into this because I know you asked this a few months back.
Yeah.
So Lewiston actually bills us, so the contract, the actual contract with USDA is signed through Lewiston Public Works. And through our interlocal agreements, we pay for 50% of that. So they get billed by USDA in quarterly increments. So they get billed for the previous quarter, they pay it, and then it usually takes 30 days or so, and they send us an invoice. So when we get an invoice in 2025, it was for gull harassment in, you know, October, November, December. So that's why you see that as money expended this year when you think, well, we didn't even have no open water.
That's what I figured it was, but until you tell me.
Right. Was I right with that, Mike? I mean, that's what we basically
Yeah,
found with
that's the gist of it. I think what you're probably looking at is the budgeted amount that's equal to that. That's me booking like an accrual every month to try to flatline estimate what's going to occur throughout the year. So we equal budget there, but at the end of the year that gets trued up when the bills come in and stuff like that.
So that last 3 months was almost $32,000 for the last quarter. So if ice were just out this week, then we probably should be looking for a bill of near $0 for January, February, and March.
Well, I don't know if it would be near zero.
Well, I mean, it should be way, way, way down there, right?
It's not as active as when they're out there patrolling and harassing gulls, but there is, you know, general upkeep of the permit and the equipment, and, you know, there are bills that come in all year regardless if they're harassing or not. Because they actually commit 2 staff members, trucks, they have a boat, they've got a garage space for all this stuff to be kept in with lockers for all the gear and the shotguns and all the stuff. It's a whole program.
So even if they're not in the lake, we're gonna get charged for something.
We are, yeah. It's just part of it.
Yeah, thank you.
But it is very effective.
Yeah, so it shows.
And do you get complaints from the people on Taylor Pond? Because when I read in here, it seems like where they're dispersing them to, one of the predominant areas is Taylor Pond.
We have had requests from Taylor Pond Association to form their own contract with the USDA. That has come up, but never fielded any complaints from any nearby residents.
Gulls to them.
That might be happening.
Oh, I'm
You
sure,
know.
the report says it is.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I'm just wondering if they get me complaining about it.
I'm surprised I think the fishermen and the people who recreate, everybody, like, you would think that this would draw some attention. It's July, and somebody just went by me shooting a shotgun out of a boat. What's going on?
Right.
But we really don't get any calls. It's been years since I've even heard them. So,
Well, I've told a few people in the sprinkler, like, what's that?
yeah.
Goal management, it's okay, you know? Like, oh, well, I guess that makes sense, yeah, they kind of nod their head.
All right, if there aren't any other questions, the Lake Auburn Water Protection Commission?
Yes, so there are 3 seats that represent Auburn on the Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Commission. 2 of them are at-large seats that are appointed by this board. And there is one position, commissioner, that is a trustee appointed to the commission. Right now, there is a vacancy in that. The current term for this vacancy will expire in 2027. We brought this up at last month's meeting. It was kind of new business at that time. Kind of threw it out there to see if anybody would be interested. It does have to be a trustee. So unfortunately, even if we knew somebody that wasn't a trustee, they can't be appointed to fill this spot. So hopefully there's a trustee who is interested in doing this. The commission only regularly meets every other month. They just had their meeting in April. They will not meet again until June, and then they don't meet in July, so then they'll have one in August, another one in the fall, and they only have a December meeting if there's a budget reason. They every now and then do have special meetings when there's something going on, but it's not a super heavy lift, but it's very important work, and hopefully we can fill that. So
Great. Any interest among the trustees?
I was going to attend the meeting, and I ended up telling Eric on the way in that, and he was going to attend too, and he had something to come up, but I had a contractor working at my house that day, and I wasn't able to go to the meeting. I'm interested in being on the Watershed Protection Commission. You guys want me to go unless Eric wants to go?
No, I already know I can't probably attend August. I'm looking at the calendar, it's just with kids, and I'm very busy a lot of the night, so I'd rather than commit to it and not go to the meetings. If you more likely make the meetings opposed to me.
So can we take action on this
Yep.
tonight? Then I would move that we appoint Bruce to the Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Commission.
I second Jeff's motion.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
all right, we'll come
Thank
aboard.
you.
I will
Thank
you.
copy
You'll be a
on
good
an
man up
email
there.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
You'll get the agendas moving forward.
Yeah, I'm going to try to go to that thing on Saturday that they have over
Awesome.
there. Yeah.
Great.
Introduce myself.
Excellent.
Okay. Old business?
All right, old business, meter bid results. So I think I did give this, kind of wasn't on the agenda last month, but as you know, we did put meter reading equipment, we put that out to bid. We did receive 4 bids, they were very competitive. We sat down, had interviews, post-bid, asked questions, gathered more information. Between staff here, we all prefer to use the Camstruck meters through EJ Prescott, which coincidentally is the best price that was given. There's a lot of benefits to this. These meters don't just meter the water. They do a lot of the things. They have leak detection, they have theft detection, they have temperature sensors. They do a lot more things than just meter the water, as I said. Their network is very easy to use. So that's what we're moving forward with. The district has $75,000 in our capital budget this year. We are going to be putting a tower up at our Goff Hill Reservoir. So when we start installing these meters, we will no longer have to drive around to read them. The tower just reads them directly. We just log in the computer and we can upload the readings. We'll get alerts. Our customers will be able to set up portals. If you're a customer of the district, you can set it up. You can put in your email, your cell phone number, whatever you want. if your home all of a sudden has a leak in the middle of the night, you could get text alerts that, hey, you got something going on. Just like the district would get alerts when customers have something going on. Just yesterday, right before the sewer meeting, I was going through the office and one of the office clerks grabbed me and said, hey, I gotta call this customer. You know, they had something went on, they got a $2,900 water and sewer bill for the month of March, I believe it was. So we were having to contact them and to try to figure this out. Unfortunately, the way we do it now, we don't find out until either the end of the month or the end of the quarter, and then we have to give them the unfortunate news that, well, it went through your meter and it went through your sewer. We don't credit you for that. There's no forgiveness on it's $2,900. You know, in the future, through this new system, we'll get an alert within hours of something abnormal occurring, and we'll be able to contact them and hopefully save them a lot of money and aggravation. And
Could it detect a leak even as minuscule as a toilet flapper?
yes, so it also, not only will it detect, like, you think of a leak as like losing 10 gallons a minute of water, but it'll also detect the constant usage. Like most people, like when they use water, it's like, oh, breakfast time, early morning, taking showers, oh, maybe lunch, oh, dinner. And then usually it's, if all of a sudden somebody's using 1 gallon per minute all day, every day, never shuts off, it'll alert that, hey, they've got a consistent leak. The other part that is really interesting is the meters themselves have vibration and listening devices. So not only can they detect the leak in the home based off the usage that goes through the meter, but they can listen and hear water main leaks out in the street. So Matt and I last fall went to a tour down to Medford, Mass. They were actually installing these types of meters. They had done 13,000 of them starting in the spring of 2024 up until when we went. When they got 13,000 in, at that time they had already found 19 leaks. These are service leaks, water main leaks, that they had no idea existed. I keep saying this, we have a large amount of unaccounted for water. I think 6 to 8, even up to 10% of that is because our meters are old and they're no longer accurate. I believe the rest of that is most likely leaks that we just have no idea about. We've got nearly 7,000 service lines out there between our services to homes, to the sprinkler mains, and there's no doubt there's weeping pipes out there that it's just not surfacing, it's getting into under drain, it's getting into sewers, we just don't know about it. We start deploying these, there's no doubt in my mind we're going to find what Medford, Mass did. I don't know if we'll find 19 in 1 year, but maybe we'll find 20. Maybe we'll find 5. So anyways, we're moving forward with that. We're going to be putting these in. I am going to, really be looking at this and crunching numbers. I would like to see, and it's a goal of the district, to develop a budget and a plan to replace all the water meters in the system. This is only going to purchase about 130 meters, target an area, and put those meters in. Then we'll be able to get a flavor for how much more accurate are the new meters, and how is that going. But I would like to, I'm going to come back to this board and look at a capital project to replace all meters. So be expecting that from me in the next coming months.
Has Lewiston made a decision on?
They are also moving ahead with these meters. There's same exact meters as we're looking at. I actually just reached out to their superintendent today to let them know that I gave the PO today. We're moving ahead with these, and they said we are also, but we're just a little slower behind. They're trying to figure out how they're going to navigate it. There are some economies that we could see. I actually had a meeting this morning at 8 a.m. with the Parish Utility District. They're looking to go to these meters as well. They can't afford the software to be able to get at the readings, but where we have the software, they can join our network. We give them a login. They would only be able to see their meters, and that would offset our costs of hosting the software. We've also been in contact with the Mechanic Falls Water District. They are also in that same situation where they're putting these, they put in their first 100 meters a couple weeks ago of these new Camstruck meters, but they don't have the software, they're just manually reading them. Where we have the software, all we have to do is assign them to Auburn and they could get a login, and they could, again, log in and press a button and have it. So.
What's the licensing agreements on this software. Can you do that?
Yep, we met, the meeting we had this morning was with the Parish Utility District and the vendor, and they said absolutely, no, that's very doable.
Okay.
There's no limit on the number of users that can get into the software. So we can have 100 people could log in, but we would set the permissions, like obviously, I don't want Paris getting in and seeing the regions here
But
in Auburn.
they're okay
Yep.
with a different utility not having to buy the software?
Yeah, they think it's great actually. So it's promising. And again, it'll help offset our costs. So the way I would, I'll work on this and I'll present it to you all, but I'm just looking at it on a percentage basis. If they're 10% of it, we'll bill them 10% of the software. And there could be economies of savings with Lewiston as well. From our tower at Goff Hill, we can actually read 86% of Lewiston. So vice versa, if they put a tower up at their Weber Ave, they could read 80-some-odd% of Auburn. So we're gonna have our tower up first, so, should be good.
Bruce, you had a question?
I'm sure they'll pay us too.
Mike, with multiple municipalities accessing this same act here, what would be the protection, the level of protection with multiple municipalities going into one site, what would be the protection from outside hacking, malware, ransomware?
No, it's good questions. Everything these days is password protected. There's multi-factor authentication. So when you log in, you get sent. You have to have your cell phone registered. It'll send you a text with a code. Multi-factor authentication. So that'll be set up. There'll be permissions in there, like obviously the admin, the administrators, the managers here at the district will have the ability to see everything. But others will just have user permissions, or they can't edit, they can't change, they can't. So if somebody hacked their way in, they wouldn't be able to do anything. So it's protected, and it's not software that would live here. It's all cloud-based. So you're just logging into. It's not like it's on our server. It's not on my computer. It'd be in an app on my phone, and I would log into their software.
So to partner with other municipalities, such as South Paris or Mechanic Falls, we'd have to erect a tower there as well, correct?
Nope. So there's a couple of ways to read the meters. There's a tower that could go up. So if they wanted to put up a tower, they could put the tower up. That tower would then be able, we can actually read Mechanic Falls from our tower at Goff Hill. So you wouldn't even need a tower in Mechanic Falls. But in Paris, they'd have to put a tower up. Their meters would then be read. They'd go to the tower, they'd go into the software on the cloud that would be assigned to Auburn. They would then log in. Here's my credentials. I'm a Parish Utility District Manager. I'm logging in. As a login, they would only be able to see the Parish Utility District's readings. It'd basically be like a route set up in our software. So they could then export the readings, dump them in their utility billing software, send out their bills. They could set it up. They get all the alerts. They get all the stuff, all the benefits of the software, but they don't have to pay for the package. So if they don't put up a tower, there's a device as part of the price when we're buying into this. They're giving one to us. It's like a puck. It looks like this microphone right here. It's about that big. You put it on the dash of the truck. It connects via Bluetooth to your phone, and when you drive around town, it picks up the readings from all the meters. So when you go back and if you don't have cellular and you go back and you just plug the puck in, it goes to the internet, uploads all the readings. So those other towns can do that, so they can read their meters, but they'll have to log into the software.
Right, leak detection, that stuff
Exactly.
would be delayed. then
Right,
too.
right, it would be delayed until they could go out and read.
The contraptions that we have on our homes,
Those are all going to go away.
those are gonna go away.
So the new meters, which I'll go grab one in a second, they no longer need an MXU box on the outside. The current meters that we use, they have a meter inside and they have what's called the MXU, which is wired to the meter. So this
Right.
always blows my mind. Somebody builds a brand new house in Auburn, very nice home, and we go over and we drill a hole in the side of it to run a wire inside to hook up to the meter. So you no longer need to do that. The meter
Okay.
itself has the antenna on the meter, and they're strong enough that in Medford they only needed 3 repeaters, which still stayed inside. in the entire city, so.
Great.
Yeah, there's a lot, and you don't have to pay for that second device. You know, right now, we pay around $180 for the meter, and we pay $230 for the MXU on the outside. Moving forward, we're only buying a meter. You know, we're not having to buy that multiple. We're gonna be saving money.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but presently, with the meters that we have today, the meter itself is serialized,
Yes.
the head's serialized,
Yep.
and the box that's read is also a different serial number.
Yep.
So you all have to somehow keep track of all of that data, so if the head gets replaced, it has to be recorded correctly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
You're absolutely right, you know, so
So
like,
with the new meters, that all goes away.
there's one serial number.
Yeah,
So,
and then configuration is very simple, I'm sure, just
yeah.
punch and play.
Yep. So yeah, so that's where we're at with meters. So a lot of good stuff. We're really excited.
So in reading through the minutes, because I wasn't here last time, you had mentioned that you were going to come back with a financial exercise to explain to us what the way this is going to work. Is that what you're talking about? Presenting for the 2-year plan?
Yeah, that's something that I still have in the works. I do not have that figured out at this time, but yeah, I basically want to figure out, like if we say, we have 6,500 meters. If we say, okay, we're going to do 4,000 meters in a phase 1, what's that going to cost? What would a phase 2 cost? And then try to plan that out. Are we going to do phase 1 in 2025 or 2026? Are we going to do phase 2 in 26 or 27? That's the plan that I'd like to work on. It took a little bit more time, but now that I have the firm numbers, like I said, I just gave the PO today for the initial, put the first tower up, get the software, get an initial 130 meters. That's what we're going forward with right now, but now I can build the rest of this out. I haven't gotten a price yet for the meter install. That's something I want to try to avoid. I don't want our crews installing the meters just because it would just monopolize so much time, and we really just don't have the staff to go change out 6,000 meters or 7,000 meters. So I would like to sub that part out, and I'm awaiting for pricing on that right now. So
Okay, great.
I just don't have the numbers.
And I also think, maybe Tim, it was you that raised the issue of splitting the costs between the water and sewer.
Yeah.
And we discussed that at the sewer meeting last night a little bit, and really had a chat with Pat outside the building, and it was like, why do that? Really, they're separate utilities.
Yeah.
So this board ought to be looking, they both ought to be looking for an equal split or a fair split between the two of them. And I don't know, Mike had worked out some numbers for the labor costs between the two districts, but the capital cost proposal, you're gathering more information on that?
Yeah, so I belong to this utility group where it's sewer superintendents from like 20 utilities around the state. And I sent out a poll, created a Google document, and I inquired to what are other sewer districts paying their water partners for meter reads. We've only gotten 3 responses from other utilities so far. I'm hoping for more. One of them was very interesting. So just for your all's knowledge, the Auburn Sewer District pays the Auburn Water District 2 payments of $25,000 a year towards metering. So the numbers that Mike ran, basically, in addition to the $50,000, the sewer district pays for half the software costs. So NDS, the census costs that we pay now, we split that evenly, water, sewer. Mike ran the numbers on what it costs. We do have one full-time employee here and truck that's basically dedicated to meters, meter readings, and all that stuff. Mike ran the numbers. Half of that is about $59,000 a year. So right off the bat, sewer, in my opinion, appears to be a little light in what they're paying water. Again, sewer benefits equally, in my opinion, from the readings as water. Why should water bear the brunt of the cost? One thing that I really liked that I saw in this poll that I sent out in Brunswick, the Brunswick Sewer District, which is a separate organization from the Brunswick-Thompson Water District, they basically took the costs of all the meters in Brunswick, and then they figured out the annual depreciation of the meters. And that's what the Brunswick Sewer District pays towards the Brunswick Water District. They have about 4,000 meters there, and it's about $140,000 a year is what Brunswick Sewer pays Brunswick Water. So all I told the sewer board is I'm not looking for them to pay more right now, but I do want to get this figured out so that come January 1 of 2026, it's in our budget and they're, in my opinion, just a fair partner on the meters. So,
And it doesn't impact the rates to the user.
yeah, I mean, in one way or another, it'd be kind of a wash. You know, water's going to save a little. It's going to be offset by sewer, but yeah, it shouldn't drive any rate change or anything like
But it
that.
just makes everybody equitable.
Yep.
Yep.
The same company, do they make a sewer meter too? I don't question.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a few.
No, so that is not a common thing. There are what's called mag meters for sewer, but there's usually just commercial practices. The problem with the sewer meters, you can't have any moving parts in there because they get clogged up.
Right.
And you have to have a full pipe to be able to measure flow, which with sewer, the way gravity works.
Right, and that's not how it functions, yeah.
What we do have a number of customers, I'd say about 250 to 300 here in Auburn, that they're customers of the sewer district but not served by the water district. What we do in those cases is we put a water meter on their well line. So we still install the water meter, but it's just measuring their private well, and that's how we calculate their sewer bill. So we do have a number of those.
That's cool.
That's what we do now. So.
All right, so we'll see more of that next month.
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Thanks. SCADA?
All right, SCADA, I just put in your packets, at the last meeting, we voted to have me work with our legal counsel. We drafted and sent a notice of breach with a 90-day cure to the city of Lewiston for SCADA services. So that was sent out. There's a copy of it in your packet. I did get a couple of phone calls after I sent the letter out, or I should say emails, just regarding the on-call and still working through that, but essentially nothing has changed, and I have not received any response to this letter as of yet.
There was a response to the letter. They got it. They just didn't contact Mike.
Oh. Did you get a call, yeah?
I didn't, but the city got a call. So we know that it's worked its way up from the water division to management in the city, and they haven't taken any action, but there's no doubt it's reached the right desk.
Okay.
Okay.
You've done your job.
All right, so, but yeah,
Yeah.
not much to discuss there, but just one for your FYI, it's in your packets. So.
All right, water quality?
Yeah, water quality, I did throw in your packets just a quick water quality trend. Kind of speaks to the year we're having. The bottom two lines, the yellow and the silver, are 2025. The blue and the orange are 2024. And you can see, last year ice out was around March 11th to March 13th. And you can see the turbidity trends, the clarity of the water going wild after that. You can see this year we have a nice smooth, very low turbidity, which is really good. The water quality in Lake Auburn looks great.
I apologize, I should have asked you about the water quality study. That was the agenda.
Oh.
Then I just
Oh,
asked
no,
you
no,
about-
no.
And I abbreviated that by just saying water quality.
Well, I've already jumped ahead, we've got water quality update done. The water quality study, so I didn't put this in your packet yet, but I did get a proposal from CDM Smith. CDM Smith has the most knowledge of Lake Auburn and the water quality in Lake Auburn. They were the ones who did the lake study back in 2012 after the big fish kill. They designed and built the UV plant. They did the watershed management plan, the last two iterations of that. They've done a number of groundwater studies for us. So we did go directly to them and kind of pitch to them what we were looking for. They've given us this proposal. I did meet with our staff, being our water treatment manager and our watershed manager, and also the Lewiston Water and Sewer Superintendent. We all met yesterday. We went down through this. You can see we get a bunch of notes. We're working on sending this to CDM Smith to revise the proposal to make sure it covers everything that we're looking for. Essentially, we want to look at the water quality in the lake. We want to understand where the trends are heading. And we want to look at all things. There's been a lot of recommendations, from dredging basins to alum dosing stations to extending intake pipes to building full filtration plants. And we want them to look at the water quality data and make recommendations to us on how to prioritize these things. Should we extend the intake pipe? Should we build a filtration plant? What are our next steps, and try to project out when those things should happen. So that's what we're working on. When we get this proposal further along, we will have to work on an MOU with Lewiston to conduct this work. I would like to apply for some grant funding to help offset the cost of this. We are budgeted for this year, and I feel like we can make it work within what we've got put aside. So that's the status update on that.
How large is the intake pipe?
It's 48 inches. It's put in 1995. That was the first kind of shared thing we did together. Lewiston.
Any other questions? Next was the goals.
Yes, I did not get these into your packet, but I can pass these around. Again, they're similar to the ones that I handed out last month. Here, you keep that one. You guys are out of luck. They don't come around. Again, I'll leave it to the board on how they want to take action on this. I won't go down through every one of these. I think I kind of did that in detail last month. I've added a couple of new things in here, but they're mainly sewer goals. The sewer board is going to keep goals under their old business, and I'm going to keep this list, and I'll update it every month on where we're at, and that's kind of what the sewer board has decided to do with this. If the water board wants to do that similarly, we can do that. If you want to add things to this, we can do that. If you want to take votes and set more permanent objectives to some of these goals, again, I'll leave it to the board on how to handle this.
When we last chatted about this, remember I talked about the Maine Water Utilities Association, and I reached out to, I participated in a training program last year when I first came on the board that they offer for new water trustees. And Cindy Wade over there talked about trying to conduct a program for us. And I didn't want to do that because it was 4 2-hour sessions. So I asked her if we could get copies of the slides, and she's still working on that. But that has a pretty good thing on things like you're revising and updating the bylaws, has things about board member conduct, it has things about setting goals and tying them to the budget. There's a couple of good modules there. Hopefully we can get that and build that into this. But that, she promised to get back to me by next week.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Other questions on this?
My only comment on this is, I think this is great. I think there's a few other ones I've mentioned before, staffing, rates. I think the trustees need to talk about this. The information in here is good, but this is not in a form that you ever see in governmental management, right? The sub-bullets are more a status report about where we are. So I think the board needs to take some time to think about these and how to write the goal, and then what the expected performance of the organization through the superintendent is on some type of a schedule, right? This should be done in the next fiscal year. This one will be done in a quarter. And then I would suggest what we did in city government a year ago, we completely revamped the way we were doing goals and doing our review of the city manager. And the manager comes in an executive session once every quarter, and we have a complete review of the goals, where they are, what ones are being met, what aren't, if there's impediments, those types of things. So I think we're on the right track. There's lots of great information in here. I think we can build on this, and, I think we certainly should have something clearly laid out for the next fiscal year,
So we can actually measure progress.
to actually measure progress.
Yeah.
Right, and I just give you the feedback Phil gave after, Phil Perla gave after we give this. He really likes this because he has, just like here, we're not running the day-to-day stuff, that's Mike and Matt's job, right? Just like the city council's not running the day-to-day of city government. But he ties all those high-level goals into the goals he has for his department heads and his work teams. So there's clear, a roll-up of, the further down you go, the more detailed it gets. I think it's very helpful to give clear expectations and priorities, so Mike and Matt know, hey, what are the big picture things we want to get done next year? Because lots of times, big picture things get lost in the doing all the daily work, right? And then, it drives into, okay, guys, if you want me to do this, then we can get into some of this detail. This is what it's gonna take. I'm gonna need a budget increase here. I'm gonna need this piece of equipment. I'm gonna need a contract with someone. If I'm gonna get these things done that you want in this time frame. So I think the board's got some more work. I'm really happy to see we're headed down this road. I think it can be very beneficial to the organization.
The question I have back for you is, it doesn't sound like something that we would do in a normal meeting, which.
Yeah, and that's,
A workshop or something like that.
that's a really good point, because that's how the city council does it. We have not off-site, it's across the hall in the other conference room. Right. Like an off-site thing where that's all we talk about, and we can go through it and flesh those out. And we had like a, 4 or 5 hour session. It wouldn't be as big here, because the scope of it's not as big, and just concentrated on that.
So,
How do you two feel about that?
No, I think it's great. Sometimes here it can be hard, you get stuck into the day-to-day objectives, making sure we get the bills out, making sure we get our reports done to the drinking water program and to DEP, and the day-to-day, those are my goals on a day-to-day basis, making sure we're meeting all of our legal and financial objectives here. But, it's hard to look down the road like, oh, rates, yeah, when did we raise the rates? Quite a while. Looking at those things, it would be helpful to have some clarity on what the board is expecting. And sometimes without having these goals laid out, you get hit with something that, like, not hit with, but something gets brought upon you like, oh, well, we hadn't talked about that, and I haven't even been working on that, so I'm not quite prepared to answer it for you. I gotta do some research and get back to you. But so yeah, if it was laid out like this, it'd be helpful. Yeah.
so we should try the members of the board up for a workshop?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How do the bylaws work? Does it have to be open to the public, or, I'm just curious.
Any meeting of the trustee would have to be open.
Right.
Yeah.
Just,
We get massive attendance at the city one there.
No, I'm really excited. I'm with Mike too, and Jeff. Pretty excited about, I think we're in a transitory phase right now of moving into more long-term strategic planning. In order to get there, we're gonna have workshops where we plan this stuff out and talk about how we're gonna do this and look at restraints such as equipment, staffing.
Yep.
Really creating some long-term goals.
Yeah,
Are we retiring any bonds?
yeah, absolutely.
Without making it work hard.
Not this year, but yeah, next year there'll be another bond retiring, and
There will be.
yeah, there's, that's part of your budget package. Those are all right in there. Yeah.
There?
That's your financial updates. It'd be in the, I can send that around.
Remember when the last rate increase was?
Yeah.
Water rate increase was 2019.
We don't wanna wait 2 more years
Yes,
between rate
yeah.
increase. We don't wanna try to stay away from the double-digit increase. And I think doing something like this will give us a better avenue into that, because
I was on rates quite a bit last fall, but if you remember at the beginning of the meeting, we said our cash on hand amounts, we would be turned down if we went for a rate increase right now. The district has a very healthy level of cash.
which is good.
So I agree that it is good to raise your rates but we filed our PRC report a few weeks ago, and I was like, I wonder if they're gonna say anything about that. We're not allowed to have, I don't know the percentage, but we're not allowed to have too much cash on hand. There are rules and limits, and I think we're right there.
So for something like this, for rates, the discussion might be, well, what's our strategy gonna be to handle this, right? Because right now, we're like, well, someday Mike's gonna pop up in here and go, hey guys, we gotta talk about rates. So what's our strategy? What are the steps? Should it be like an analysis every year? You know, what is it we're expecting to be done so we know when we have to trigger? Because it's not an inconsequential thing to do a rate increase application.
What was the increase in 2019? Just roughly.
12%. So one thing that the district for a good decade, we had built into our rates to leave us enough cash to fund our capital work. So at the time of 2019, built into our rates, it gave us around $1 million a year to fund capital projects. Not long after that rate increase, there was a lot of discussion amongst the board members that we should be bonding for capital work and not having the rates artificially raised to fund it annually. So the board wound up bonding $2 million. And at the time, we actually had the cash to do the capital work. We have seen a steady increase in our revenues because of the growth that's going on in Auburn. We've been growing steady, 50 customers a year for the last 10 to 15 years. So our revenues are increasing there. The interest rates are very healthy right now. So our cash that is tied up in bonds, we've seen very, very good rates, and we've seen increased. So that's what's kind of driving where we're at right now financially. We're in a really good position. We have the second lowest water rates in the state of Maine, and we have a healthy amount of cash in the bank. But we do have some big looming projects.
Yeah, we do.
Like
That's why I
meters,
looked up.
filtration,
Yep.
facilities,
Yep.
big things that, while we seem good right now, we've got to plan these out because they will greatly affect the rates. Soon.
Cash on hand.
And cash on hand.
All right, so, question about scheduling a workshop. Should we do it in conjunction with the regular meeting, before or after? Any preference for you guys? Is it probably 3 cuts into your workday? Is 4 to 6 better than 3 to 5?
I mean, I'll make anything work for myself. I didn't know, would the board want to do like a workshop like a week before a regular meeting? Is that, I just don't want people to get burnt out if you're here for an hour or 2 hour workshop and then to stay for a meeting. Maybe if you do it like the week before, maybe you and I can talk about some dates and we can throw that out to board members, see what works, and send that around.
I think my preference would be, if I'm gonna come over, whether I'm here for an hour or 3 hours won't make much difference, so.
Come in for like a 3 o'clock workshop.
Yeah, and do the regular meeting afterwards, or.
I babysat, don't fool us, if we're bring a baby here.
Sure.
So you'll be
You'll
better
only-
4 to 6?
You'll,
I'm fine with that.
you'll only get half a vote.
Or we could do a 4 and go later and bring in
Yeah.
sandwiches for
Yeah,
supper,
yeah,
or
yeah,
something like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
something like that.
All right, then we'll get.
We'll get some ideas going, get it out.
I think that's it.
We talked about water quality already.
Yes, we did.
District goals, yep.
Anything else?
I have a question, it's more of an education question. Water rights to Lake Auburn from Lewiston, obviously they have rights to Lake Auburn. does Lewiston have the right to then sell those rights to other municipalities? Or extend their pipes to, say, Sabatis or Lisbon, or,
Well, Sabatis has rights to Lake Auburn also.
what they do?
Yeah.
Does?
Yep, I think that's in the charter.
No, I think it's the other way around. I think
As a-
Sabatis is involved, maybe, but I thought Sabatis was involved because Lewiston has legislative authority to the Androscoggin River in any pond or lake in Androscoggin County except Sabatis Lake.
Who wants it?
So,
Right. I don't-
so the answer is.
So we do
possible.
that, right? I
No, we
think,
do it with Portland, I understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the lake is on our side of the river, so.
but they, in the legislation, there's no different, it doesn't matter where it is, because the lake actually belongs to the people of the state, and it's held in trust by state government. And state government has granted Auburn Water District the ability to extract from the lake for certain purposes equally to Lewiston. We have no more right to the water as the Auburn Water District than the city of Lewiston has to that water.
It's a great pond,
Right, great, it's
great
great.
pond.
The only difference between us and them is our charter does afford us more authority over the protection of Lake Auburn.
Right.
Their charter is not specific to the same powers that we have.
And that was just to help me understand.
Yep.
I have one thing, Dennis, so I don't know, Mike, if you guys are aware of the movement that's going on in Washington about municipal bonds? So I'll summarize this. So the Doge boys have made a proposal to the White House to eliminate the tax-free status of municipal bonds.
That was in the paper, was it, LSJ?
Well, yeah, it's been going on for a while, and what they're trying to do is claw back $250 billion a year out of municipalities and other political subdivisions to help fund the extenuation of the tax cuts that they had before. So the problem is because that's where this authority comes from, is Congress, right? So if they change this, municipal bonds in a tax-free status would cease to exist, and we'd have to pay commercial rates for bonding, which is, if you, in general terms, is probably a doubling of your interest rate. So some bodies are sending letters to the congressional delegation. So the Maine Mayor's Coalition, Cara Pelletier was in Washington with National League of Cities representing the Maine Mayor's Coalition. She spoke to every member of the delegation about this. MMA sent a communication to them. The cities talked to them. I think it would be beneficial if, as a body, we send a letter to, for us it's 3 members, right? Because Shelley Pingree is not in play for the water district, explaining to them the significant impact that this would have on ratepayers if the water district lost the ability to get tax-free bonds from a bond bank, and we had to pay the extraordinary increase in cost, right? It cost our ratepayers a lot more money to do that. If I can get a sample letter from, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. I get a sample letter from one of the other groups that sent it, and then we can look at it the next meeting, and if people think that's great, we can send a letter. Because
Absolutely.
it's one of the things that the more they hear about the impacts, the less likely they are to think that this is a good idea.
Is there any timeline, Jeff, on the proposal of the taking tax status? off the
Well,
bonds?
it probably wouldn't, no, it's unlikely, it's unlikely, I think, that this would pass through as separate legislation. It's more likely they would build this into a budget bill, so it's, 4 lines and 8,000 pages of stuff, instead of directly having a spotlight on each individual item. So, they've passed a continuing resolution to get people through till the end of September. So, it's likely not to be until late summer, fall, when they start talking about the budget, and in the current environment, who knows, we may be like we've been for a number of years now, no actual passage of a federal budget, they put some type of continuing resolution in. So it's not like we have to send it tomorrow, but, we would want to send it in the near future.
Yeah, don't want to wait too long.
Right.
I belong to the Maine Water Utilities Legislative Committee. I have not heard this at that committee. I'll bring this up at the next meeting.
Yeah, and that group might want to send something as well,
I
because
guarantee they would, yeah.
any municipality or quasi-municipality, this is just super onerous, right?
This is unconscionable.
You're not gonna be, it's like on the city side. One of two things would happen. We'd stop replacing buildings and we'd stop paving half the roads we're trying to do now, or we'd have to have a massive property tax increase just to pay the interest.
Sounds good.
Tax increase. All good.
So you're actually gonna bring a sample for the next?
Yeah, I'll send you a sample, you and Mike, of
Okay.
one of the letters, and then you guys can
We'll work
talk
on
about
it,
it at the
yep.
next meeting.
Great, thanks. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
I'm going to adjourn.
All right,
Second.
all in favor? Thank you.